Hey y'all, so I'm still working on the walnut table. Right now the process, I'm trying to rip up my joints for my glue lines, and I'll show you what's going on here. Okay, so I've got the track saw. Let me walk over here and show you. Bought this several years ago. It's a Win track saw. It has worked okay. Although I'll go into detail here. I like the track that goes with it as long as I put this splice together really well. But the issue is that I hit a pretty large metal nail, an old metal nail, with that track saw the last time I used it on the last project. It was embedded in the lumber. I had no idea it was there, and that thing has not run right since then. So I can't use it on my track saw as a track saw to do my 90-degree edge. So I had to get a bit creative. I've got my DeWalt cordless that I use normally. I don't really, I use it for all kinds of stuff, but I don't normally use it as like a precision tool, if I can say that. But in this case, what I did, and I did move the track over a little bit. It's 4 inches. So if you imagine, I just kind of ran it right along the edge like that there, and just used the track there as a straight edge. And it is showing. I've got now, this took 2 or 3 tries. I had to dial in that saw blade. It's at pretty good 90 degrees now, based on this square. And this is from eye gauging. I saw a bunch of reviews on this thing several years ago saying it was pretty accurate. I've been very pleased with it. Just as a side note, that's been a really nice square to have. But I think this edge right here is going to work out really well, this 90 degree. So I got my first one cut. I'm going to go ahead. I've got the middle one to cut and the outside one here to cut. So I got these 2 pieces I'm going to cut. Same setup over there. And then with any luck, hopefully I can get to doing some glue up later today. That would be nice. Alright, I think I got them jointed pretty well. It's as close to a 90 degree as I can get. I don't have it pushed completely up. There's a really thin, like paper thin crease, but by the time it gets glued up, I've already test clamped it, and when I clamp it, you really don't see the seam. So I'm going to take my time and work on this. I probably won't get it on video, just because it's, well, maybe I'll get the end on there. It's just glue ups by myself, getting the clamps and everything. It's just a little intense for that period of time. And you can notice I did cut off each end on this board. There had a few imperfections on it, and it had a little flare on each side. So to fit those boards together better, this is where this is going to be cut off here anyway. I'll be trimming it to right around there. So I cut the tiny flare that was on there, and it was only about like a 1/16, maybe not even that, but it was enough. It was pushing the joint from closing all the way on both ends. So I just took those off and it closed up a lot better. Let me get this glued up. Making some progress on this walnut table. We've got 6 foot in length The width varies. A lot of it's around 36, 35. It goes up to like 38, right around there. But it varies just because of the live edge. There's a couple holes that I will end up patching the backside, doing epoxy on these. I'm working right now on, it's pretty smooth through here, real smooth. Like this jointed up really well. This one over here, I've got just the tiniest, very tiny little lip. I gotta plane that section, hand plane that down a little bit. And you see I have to draw knife out. Got to draw knife off the bark. We're getting there. It's looking, I think it's looking pretty good. The center matches up really well on one side, doesn't match as well on the other. I didn't have a piece that was perfectly quarter sawn that width. A perfectly quarter sawn piece in the middle probably would have been a little bit better, but overall it matches up pretty well. You've got once this gets knocked down and sanded, you got the grain patterns here. They're going to line up pretty well together. So this is going to go same as my last walnut build or table build. I'm going to use some Odie's oil, but we're going to put more wax on it this time. We're going to do more wax and a little bit more buffing to give this thing a little bit more sheen, a little bit more shine on it. But it'll work out really well. I can't wait. It's so, this happens with every walnut piece, but it's so dull right now. Just whenever you get the finish on here, it's going to be crazy, because I don't know if my camera can pick it up. All through here is curly walnut. Curly walnut through there. Curly walnut all down through here. The coloring on this, you can see it right there, right in front of that knot. The coloring on this is just going to wow you. I think it's over, where's it at? You can get my tape measure here. Right at 2 inches. 2 inches pretty much on the dot. Yep. By the time I get this thing sanded down and all the clear coat, everything put on there, or not the clear coat, the Odie's oil and wax, which is your protectant, this thing is going to pop. This is going to be a nice table. Can't wait to get this thing finished and show you all how it's looking. But just wanted to show you the steps here along the way, and kind of bring you along on this build. Let you see what all I got to do. I didn't get all the steps involved. Obviously, I had to plane all these. The last video, or in the previous section, I did have a different middle piece, and it wasn't working out right. I swapped it out for another one. This all came out of the same tree. So I swapped it out for another one out of the same log. But I needed it to be a little bit wider. The other one, when I put it in there, I realized it was just going to be too narrow. So it went with this one to make it a little bit wider. I would have preferred another couple inches on here. But it just wasn't available at this thickness. So this is going to be a terrific little table. Can't wait. Let me know if you got any questions on the process. Basically, I run them through the planer. I've got, you can see I have not swept. It is, I need to. I hate walking on this dusty feeling when you're walking around. Ran everything through the planer. I think I went through like 3 or 4 bags full of walnut shavings. So planed these things down quite a bit. Planed them all individually. Jointed them, which joining them was the hard part. I think I mentioned before, this wind track saw, it's not the best for hardwoods. It's really much better with like plywood. It's bottom dollar for a track saw, but it has served me well over the last few years. But I hit metal on the last project with that, and it's not running right. So I couldn't use my track saw. I end up having to use my DeWalt circular saw that's over there and run a straight edge. And so I was having a harder time getting a good joint line, good glue up line. Eventually made it work, but getting the joint line was a little bit harder without my track saw working right. So next step, I'm pretty close to being done with some hand planing. Next step, I will do some draw knife work, get this bark off here. I'll be leaving the sapwood, and then from there I'll be just doing tons and tons of sanding. It's crazy how much sanding you have to do on a project like this. A lot of sanding. But some people hate that part. I actually don't mind it. I kind of like it because you get to see the grain. The grain starts coming out a little bit more when you're sanding. So I kind of like that process. But either way, just wanted to show you what's going on with this thing. This here's the bottom side. I just got it flipped upside down right now. I'm doing my sanding and getting the edges done on here before I flip it back over and turn my attention to the top. This had about 3/4 of an inch of bark on it, maybe an inch of bark. When I do live edge, I try to keep the subtle undulations as best as I can. You can see here, I've been going over it with the random orbital sander. It's not always the greatest tool for this, but you can see the shadows. Those are where, you know, it's not completely smooth. It's got some highs and lows in it. I think it looks a lot better when you're able to keep a live edge like that. And I got a couple spots right here that I need to sand a little bit more. It's got some of the draw knife marks on there. I don't like leaving the marks from the knife. But other than that, I tried, like this here, this has got a high spot. I try to leave that high spot. I try to leave as much of the characteristic of it as possible with just keeping, I just take off just the layer of bark and try not to go any deeper to really leave as much of the natural look as possible. I just think it makes for a better live edge finish. Let me see how the other side is here. The other side I haven't started sanding yet. It kind of goes down, so it'll probably be easier to sand like this section here when the tables flip back over. Some people, you know, the random orbital sander, like I said, is not always the best. You do have to, let me show you here. You do have to kind of tilt it a little bit so you're like this, which puts a lot of emphasis on like one edge, and then it heats up that pad. I have had to change the Velcro hook pads because of that, but it's the only tool I have that works really quick to get this down. You just have to be careful when you're doing it that you just don't keep this flat, because if you keep it flat, you're going to knock off all of the subtle differences in the edge, and then to me you're not going to have as much of a unique piece. It's just going to be flat with like a curve in it, and to me that's just not as appealing. So bottom line, I try to keep as much of the characteristics of the lumber as possible, and just finally take off the bark there as best as I can. not quite finished with that. It's still got some of that outer layer I need to remove. But as you can see, I always kind of just take the sander and just do like a little round over on it. It makes all the edges so much smoother. Like this bottom side right now, that is sharp. That could actually come close to cutting somebody. Over here definitely could. So I round off all the edges and just to knock them off a little bit. But I just wanted to show, like, if you could tell, I kept the random orbital sander tilted a little bit. I don't know if it came across in the video or not. So I wasn't laying it just flat and going, because then you lose all that contour. So it's not really how you're supposed to use these sanders, but using it outside of the, most times you're just flat on the surface, which is better for the longevity of like these hook pads, because it'll burn these things up. I've got an extra one as for backup, but when you're doing this kind of work, smaller sanders are better. But this is just what I got to go with, so it's what I'm using. But hopefully that makes sense, and hopefully you all like this table. This here is, once again, this is the underside. These will be getting patched, and then clear epoxy will go in these holes. This lumber, this walnut is going to be it's going to make for a really nice, really pretty table. But thanks for watching. Okay, got the epoxy in these holes, and they got some bubbles. Got to get the bubbles out. I just use a propane. This one here, this crack right here, I'm going to refill. It keeps, I'm going to have to mix just a small amount of epoxy for that. Get these bubbles out. It doesn't take much, and if you hold the torch down too close, it pushes your epoxy all over the table. This one right here, this is the biggest one. That one's going to continue having some bubbles. I'm going to have to keep hitting these frequently. You see, you get it there, and it just kind of keeps going. But look right here, I'm not getting the best lighting on that. That section right there is showing off that curly walnut. That is going to be incredible. It's going to be some gorgeous figure. And I think this one right here is going to be really interesting with the way it's going to show. Whoop, a little too close on that one. The way I've always done it is I kind of just hit it with the heat for a minute, let it regroup, it bubbles back up. I let it do its thing. I give it a minute or two, and then I put the heat back on it. So just kind of keep giving it a little bit of time. Well, obviously I got to come back to this one here in just a moment. I'll probably do it with my hands free. Don't want to mess this up just for a video. So got yeah, it's looking pretty good. But I can't get the lighting quite right, and the video is not picking it up. Maybe that angle might be best. See, like it almost looks like zebra stripes. That's what that's curly walnut, and we got a bunch of that right in here, and all throughout that whole section is curly. Actually, both of these, because this whole section right through here and over there has a lot of curly walnut in it. That figure, man, I wish the camera would pick that up better. There, maybe there. That figure is going to be spectacular, especially given how much of the table it's on. But that's all. We're almost, getting close to being done with this table. I got it pretty flat, well, really flat. It's very flat already. Sanded it down to 120 grit, and then I'm doing the epoxy. Obviously, any high spots on the epoxy got to be sanded back down and smoothed. So I don't do my finish sanding on the board, on the slab, until the epoxy's done. Now that the epoxy is going to take a couple days to cure, or a few days to cure, after that I'll come back with the sander, hit all this, and then I'll do my final sanding on the entire table. So basically it's epoxy, sanding, and then putting on your whatever finish you want. In my case, I'm using the Odie's oil and Odie's wax. So now, the Odie's oil and Odie's wax, you have to give it time in between each layer. So even though there's not a whole lot of steps involved, it's still going to take a period of time just because of the amount of time you have to give in between each coat. And you got to give time for the epoxy to cure before you can do anything with it.